Okay, yeah, but like I was saying, these last few sessions we've been kind of diving into the mindset and what it takes to become a trader. So we were doing more along the lines of philosophies. We kind of dove into how some of the banks operate and work. We also were going into things like risk management, a lot of mindset, and schematics of actual trading that allow us to become more profitable in the market. So tonight I want to kind of dive away from the rhetoric, and we're going to go more into mechanics and some of the technicals that we can use to make our trading a little bit more efficient and become more proficient on the actual charts. So we'll dive into trend lines today. If anybody has any questions, concerns, feel free to unmute, stop me, and we'll take a more detailed look. And just my usual good evening, Daniel, Sharon. See some of my regulars, Idella, Gigi. What up, D? I haven't seen that name. It's Claudia. Oh, there go Petra. Good evening, Petra. Got Tony B in the house tonight. Good evening, good evening. So, what we're going to dive into tonight is trend lines and how to actually incorporate them into our trading to make some sound decisions. So most of you guys may be familiar with what a trend line is. A trend line is a simple measurement of the market movements that's going to connect one point of reference to another. And typically, price likes to respond at these points, these trend lines. In order to draw a trend line, you are going to need two connecting points. It's going to be connecting. You see a clear rejection from that specific point. So with EuroCAD, we are in a slight bit of an uptrend. They also are used to determine trend direction. So when we draw our trend line from this bottom point, this previous low, we'll come up here to another area. We're gonna develop that this, or we'll be able to decipher that this is in a uptrend. Let me erase some of these, or let me get a clean chart real quick. EuroCAD. We'll dive here. There's a few neat things that we can do with our trend lines to give us a better perspective of what's going on in the market. As I was saying, we do have a clear uptrend here. We did have a small session on this, but I want to dive in more detail on what are we going to, because you see a lot of people using trend lines this way, determining the trend line. You'll get your bounce, and then you wait for the price to come back to the trend line, and typically that's going to be a good area of entry. We can either expect price to bounce here or to break this trend line. You have a couple of ways that you can plan to enter the market based on trend lines. So when we know this price came to a trend line, we can make a decision whether we want to go long or we want to go short. Based on the market direction or overall trend that's going up, we will be looking for longs. So when price got to this area here, we're looking to go long and we're waiting on us an entry. We're on a higher time frame than 4 hours, so we could dial in to like a 1 hour, 30-minute chart, and we'll start noticing candle patterns. We have a touch trend line, and directly out there we got an engulfing, which would have gave us a signal to purchase it, or to go long, or to buy this asset. So that's one way that we can use trend lines, is just waiting for the trend line bounces, or we can wait for the trend line breaks. Now I'm gonna try to find us an example, but we can say that the trend line broke. What we'll do is we'll let the price go ahead and break down. Price will typically break down and break the trend line. It'll come back up. And let me see if I can draw that for you guys. So we just put the drawings here. But price will typically do this. It'll break down, come back up to test the strength of the trend line, and then you'll get a nice drop, nice bearish action coming down off of the rejection of the trend line. So at trend lines, we're looking for a price to do one or two things: either to bounce, break down, retest, and then we take our entry. So if price was to come down, we don't move on the initial movement. We let price come to us. So the price would come back up to the trend line, or typically it does come back up, and that's where we'll get our entry and ride the move on down. So, but this actual trend line held. It's been a strong area, so it's starting to go back up. So that's one aspect of trend lines. Another thing we can do with trend lines, and one of my favorite setups that you guys can use is a pretty simple setup. You're gonna take one trend line, and with the trading, you can copy that, and we can pull out what we call a channel, trend line channel here, and we just connect it to another point. Let's see what'll be best. We just kind of play with it, angle it up. We still need our two lines, our two touches. More like that. Yeah, we got two touches there, and that gives us a perspective of an uptrend. So we have us a area of interest. So we know once price gets up close to this area, and we can even do it like this. Sometimes it may go out a little bit. Let me be more exact. Let me start over and delete this. Kind of want to keep the same angle. So just move that up. Sometimes price does kind of break the trend line, but it shoots back in there. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's typically what you want to see inside of a trend channel is about 5 touches before we consider this a strong area or a valid trend channel. So we start with drawing one trend line, we connect our 2 points, we can copy that, and then we put it on top of the action, the price action, and we can kind of isolate out areas of where price should react. So if we did take this long motion here, we took an actual buy off of the trend line. We'll have a tight stop loss. We just put our stop loss maybe, see, it kind of depends on the asset, but we usually want to go, I would say maybe about 10, maybe 15 pips underneath the actual trend line. And that'll be our stop loss for the longs if we're looking for a bounce. And then we can ride this thing particularly up to these highs, maybe even up here to the very top of the trend line channel. So with EC, we did get a nice bearish movement, looking for price to kind of retrace a bit, probably get up here to about this area before we get a reaction for right around, I want to say close to about 80, 90 pips is where we could potentially be looking at an EC. And this is just simply trading basic trend lines. We'll go down and we'll see if we can get a, and we'll keep building on this and we'll get a little fancier and fancier as we go. But that's going to be your trend lines. We have trend line channels. If you guys see this area, I already had this marked off, but this was a channel. Price respected this channel, was just bouncing along, and I found a short in the market based off of the trend lines alone. I would have noticed this, but I did also see what they call a harmonic pattern. But the main scope of this trade was based off of a bearish channel. So I did find a trend line. I put another one up top to make a channel, and price has kind of been respecting this thing all the way down. We had a downtrend channel. We got a nice retrace of price coming off this big bearish move, and from there we were at the top of the channel again. Every time price gets up here, it likes to reject from there. So that's a strong area of interest there. So it allowed me to know that price was generally gonna break down at this area, alongside of other confluences like the harmonics, things of that sort. So we caught a nice short here. It went for over 100 pips before we got a reaction. So that was about to take profit right around here. And once again, just using simple trend line bounces and breaks. Let's see if we can find another example. Everybody with me so far?
Yes.
Good. Now we'll dive a little deeper. So we're done with basic trend lines. Let's look here. See what else I can show you guys. See if I can find one. Let's look at GJ. Yeah, it worked out perfectly. Here's a nice example. So we always start on our top-down approach. We have our higher time frame here. We see that GJ had a very nice downside movement. So we can get us a nice trend line out of that just to kind of track price. We see here where price is stopping right at the trend line. That's 1-2 points. Now we come down here and we do see also that there is, get rid of that down at the bottom. There also was an uptrend in the midst of this big downtrend. So now we're having a symmetrical, what we call a symmetrical triangle or a known pattern. So we haven't, at this point, we're getting close to a decent entry for GJ. Looking forward to bounce off of this area, leaving us with a tight stop loss. It's going to be I would say about a 40 pip stop loss would be good. GJ usually runs anywhere from about 40 to 50 pips stop losses because it'll move widely. But we are in this triangle here. And again, that's just using simply two trend lines. We have the down trend line we found on the daily time frame, and then we noticed that prices started to retrace, and it gave us another trend line to the top, making this triangle pattern here, which is called a symmetrical triangle. Typically, when we see these are strong areas of interest, and price will go ahead and at least break back down to test this trend line again. So if we get a good formation here, an aggressive entry would be right now. We can go ahead and get an aggressive entry. Stop loss about 40 pips. If we want to be more conservative and we want to see the move actually happen, we'll wait for a price action pattern, which will be something like an engulfing candle of this nice bar here. Or we can actually zoom in to the smaller time frames. We're going to see, what we're looking for, maybe a breakout candle. We'll be looking for some type of pattern. The only thing I would see on the 4 hour would for it to be to break these levels where these wicks are. We go down to like the 1 hour. See a nice engulfing or anything like that. We are having wicks to the upside. So I'm currently in this trade myself. I've been holding it for a while. I'm looking for GJ to drop down and get us to about the 141 area, which will be a very nice, profitable trade. Tight stop loss on this. So, you can have a stop loss just above the trend line. Like I said, right now we're looking about a 30 to 40 pip stop loss for a potential almost 200 pips. So these are high yield trades that you can do with the trend lines. And you can also even jump down to smaller time frames and do the same exact things. So if we want to draw a trend line on this smaller on this up movement or when the bulls came in, draw from about right here and we'll wait for this to break. We can see a little bit of a retest and then that'll be our entry. So if you're more of a short-term trader, wait for it to break this trend line, come back and test it, and then you'll get your entry coming back down to the downside. There's a few more things we can do with trend lines to kind of just direct us in the momentum or the trend of the pair. And there's a couple of other things that will be pretty. Let me see if I can find any more examples. The only other type of the only one that I see on this screen would be it's going to be a more of a rectangle. It's more of a zone. But when you get pricing and consolidation like this, you're going to mark off the highs and the lows. It'll cause like a little congestion area, and then you simply just wait for the breakout. You wait for it to break up. You can wait for the retest to come back down and test those areas, and then that'll be your entry. So we always wait for the breaks, the retest, and then that's when you enter. That's a conservative trade. So it'll give you a little bit more of a confirmation that price will go your way. So you wait for it to come back, test it. You'll see the rejection, and then you can take the trade. Stop loss will be kind of down here beneath the first bullish candle, or you can put it right here. But you want to give yourself a little bit more room in case price spikes or you get those wicks. Sometimes price likes to run down a little bit, and then you'll take. You could have took your long. So once again, guys, I apologize. I was a little late today. We're not gonna go too in depth. I want to respect everybody's time with me being behind. But that is trend lines. It's a great way for you guys to start itemizing or spotting out trends in the market. You can also take those trend line channels. They're great. Let me pull it back up though. They are great indications of where price will react. So not only are you guys going to have, or not only does it give us clear indications of entries, you also have your indications of where to exit the market. Sometimes we have the trouble of knowing when to take the money, or when to get out the trade, or when to call it a loss. With these trend lines, it's a great indication of where you should respect the market and the potential of where you guys should go ahead and close the trade out to keep from losing profit. So that's pretty much the session today. I'll look at a couple of trades here. We're gonna keep on diving in a little bit more, and we'll put more tools into our tool belt, and just keep growing on more of the lines of my mechanics. We'll probably dive into some Fibos, how to actually use Fibos, and that way you guys can go ahead and start building you a strategy or a plan to attack the market. See what you guys like best. These are going to be the building blocks for your actual trading. So you'll be able to go in there and kind of make sound decisions of where you want to enter, and then from there you guys can add all your fancy jazz and things like that, like your indicators, things you may want to use to assist you in making your trading decisions. But I have any questions today? Any charts you guys want to look over before we get off the call?
No, I'm good. That was pretty informative.
Oh, that's good to hear.
She has reportedly been
Check the
given
chat.
a very fancy new job in the Russian government. She is the first person who elicited a statement from candidate Trump on the campaign trail in 2015 that he didn't think the U.S. would be sanctioning Russia at all.
From the bottom, and
He was elected president. Trump appointed Rex Tillerson to be his Secretary of State. Rex Tillerson, until that moment, had been the CEO of ExxonMobil. As the CEO of ExxonMobil, he had been negotiated a record-breaking $500 billion oil deal between ExxonMobil and Putin's state-run oil company in Russia to have Exxon come in and
But yeah, it broke down.
Your sound went in and out.
Okay. I apologize. But I had a little bit of background noise, but yeah, I was just giving you guys an example of what a pennant looks like, just using simple trend lines. We had a nice bullish move. When you see a nice push up, and then you start to notice price slowly bouncing up and down, you can draw your trend lines. It'll actually make like looks like a this isn't a flag, but it's a pennant. It looks like an actual, pennant, racing pennant. And when price, you just wait for the breakout. If it broke above, you wait for the breakout, come back and retest. On this, it broke down. You see the big, nice engulfing candle. It came back up to test it. You started getting wicks, and then now you got your bearish move. So if you would have caught it here after the retest, you were looking at right around. So that's one. That was a nice candle. Let's just say over 200 pips. I mean, it can't get any too much more simpler. Just waiting for it to come back up and test, and then taking it down. You have probably about, see, on this example, you would have needed, because it did break right here, so you would have needed. This is a daily candle. Would have been about a 50 pip stop, but we have to remember we are on a daily time frame. The smaller the time frame, the tighter the stops. May have been less profit potential, but based on this daily time frame, it went for over 200 pips. So I mean, that's a nice trade there. We'll take a quick look at EU. See what we have going there. Got a couple of markups on EU. That was a good catch. Good catch. Like OGZ. I really think that's maybe my favorite pair. Daniel is that good old GBP and ZD. Yo, if you guys see these blue marks here, what this is an actual projection. There's a tool here and I'll show you guys this on a later session. It's more of an advanced move or projection. The market, it's like a mirror. It mirrors yourself, and it also mirrors its own moves. So I'll show you guys how to actually pull some of these figures from in the past or what price did in the past, and you can project it out into the future. If you see here that price is kind of rejecting respecting these lines, and it's just a projection that I made based off of past price action. So we're looking for EU to continue to rise. Also, we do have to keep it in mind tomorrow is a non-farm payroll. So there's going to be a big move. There's going to be a big swing and then probably a retrace. So you guys be aware of that. If you're going to be trading EU in the morning about 7:30, there's going to be news. So either bring your stops tighter, book some profit, enter before the move with a tight stop loss. There's different things you can do to protect yourself from news like that. But overall, long term, I see EU rising and just going to continue to rise for a while. I see the dollar just kind of dropping for a while, and EU or the euro gaining some more strength. So we still have some upside move on EU. If we get a break, especially around here, we get a break at these levels, we're gonna moon up a little bit. Let me get one more. I have one more draw on the EU somewhere, I think.
Do you see a possible retrace to like 1.109 on EU?
Yeah. Actually, I do see it pulling back a little bit. That's thoughts in my mind. I'm pulling up this other drawing, but we're completing a harmonic pattern. When we usually complete those, it does retrace a bit, kind of testing these previous areas. So I'm looking forward to, like you say, probably bounce off of this line, maybe a couple more pips here. Start looking around London session, maybe a little earlier if you're up tonight. Can't think of the bank, but there's a bank that closes, I want to say around 12 midnight, 11ish. I have to get you an exact time frame on that, but it'll close, and then you typically see price kind of reverse a bit. coming into London, or if it may go bullish, there's a momentum that happens. Because what happens is at the bank at the end of the session, the banks have to balance their books. So what they're doing is all the transactions they made. There's a set amount of money they have to have in each currency. So the euro has to have a set amount in the banks for at the end of the euro session or the bank session. So at the end, you'll start seeing these runs. If the bank was selling this currency, at the end, the last hour, or probably not even the last hour, the last 5 or 10 minutes, you'll notice a big momentum push. That's going to be from the banks trying to balance their books. They can never fully balance them, but that's their goal. So if you start keeping an eye, the last, I say, 10, 15 minutes, you'll see a nice candle to kind of give you an indication of what the bank was previously doing, if they were selling that currency, if they were buying that currency. We can go into the next session and it'll help us kind of figure in what the next bank is going to open doing, whether they're going to go ahead and continue with the move. You can see the battle of the bulls and bears, and that's going to be a topic for a later discussion. But it gets a little bit more intricate where we can kind of determine what the next candle will be based off of the way that the banks open, the banks close, and them trying to close or them trying to balance out their bank books. So you're down on a short answer. I do see it coming up here, kind of testing this trend line. It's going to typically it should go ahead. It's either going to do the same thing. It's either going to break or bounce. So to be safe, my man, if you're not into a trade right now, if you are, hold it. If it breaks a little bit past this level, the 11145, I would give maybe another 10, 15 pips, not too much because EU doesn't move as much. You can use like your ADR to trace how many pips are left. And I would let that trade go because it'll probably pull up, pull back, and then shoot off. It could also pull up, pull back, and then drop. But it's better to be safe than sorry. You can always re-enter the trade. So if you get any type of entry reasons to the downside, it's better to go ahead and get out the trade and then re-enter than to hold a loser, than just hold a losing trade. So you could get your bounce down and then come down and test these areas.
Yeah, I'm thinking that if it don't just shoot up, if it don't just keep going, honestly. But I haven't placed anything. I was thinking about placing a limit at around that point, like 1.109 somewhere, and then see what it does. It's the only thing I can do. If it shoots, I'm just gonna leave it alone and look at other pairs.
My man, best thing is just keep getting active. That sounds like a good plan, man. I may follow you with that as well. Start implementing these limit orders as you guys, progressing your trading. Limit orders are a great way to allow price to come to you. So if you feel like price is going to come back to a certain area, you can place a limit order with your stop loss in there, and price will come to you instead of you trying to catch up to price. But last thing, any other trades you guys want to look at before we hop off? Same pattern as there go my man. Look, same pattern as EU. I mean as gold, and gold's been kind of let's look at gold. Gold's been kind of dropping back. I'd like to give a welcome to my man Vincent. He's in the chat, man. He's a great trader. One of my trader buddies jumped in and came and give us a visit. He's a very proficient trader, so it's good to have him to jump in with us. So, I mean, when we look at gold, of course, he did just remind me, EU and gold typically follows the same patterns. We have a test of this downside. We got the push back up. We are at a resistance zone here. So you're definitely right. We could see a pullback down. EU typically, because euro is a gold currency, is correlated with gold. So as the gold prices move, euro typically moves as well. There's a correlation there. So with gold looking like it may come down, we can see EU potentially come down. We got a nice engulfing. We have some more pull downs. It's kind of consolidating right now. It's at a level previous level here. So once it breaks this level, same thing with EU. We can see it kind of come back down, probably test some of these previous level, and then we may get our push back up. But yeah, that's pretty much tonight's session. Yeah. We're gonna leave it short and simple. Best way to trade is as simple as possible. It's typically what I do all day to catch moves in the market. You guys see I had a down trending, the down channel. It was solid. It was stuck. I mean, I can't make this up. If price does the same thing, the channel broke out, retest, you got a nice push up. You got to remember this is gold, so it went from 87 to almost 15, 16. That's a crazy move. That's 1,600 points, which would be like 160 pips, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe even more. My zeros may be wrong, but that was a very nice move there for gold. And then it came back down, broke back down, kind of tested these areas again, previous area, and we got some moves here, but it looks like it could form a W. But we would need to clear this actual zone here before we got continuation of that final push up. We probably see a pull down, and then we'll make a weird, a funky looking, odd looking W. So we could get the pull back and then continue back up to the upside. Last time going forward, gone. Any other pairs? Any other questions, concern? Any trades you guys were in you want to talk about?
I like this class about trend lines though. I've been trying to piece together. How do you say? I've been trying to piece together price action and trend line, and well, we all know it's not gonna exactly coincide with each other, because of the big players in the markets, but just piecing it together piece by piece, it's starting to get clearer, especially when you just said something, well, not said something, especially with this class about trend lines today. It just shows us a kind of greed that's in the banks when they'll put that extra money in for that extra push down or up, stuff like that, wicking taking out your stop losses and stuff like that, but remain in the trend line.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, I'm getting over that hump where it's not even to get over a hump. It's more about monitoring your trades more than usually. Like instead of staying at the computer, or even staying at the computer, or even like myself, I would sit at a trade, just I would sit at a trade for up to 2 hours, and then I will come back and check the trade every half hour.
Hey, basically, man, you just sharpening your sword, man. You building upon your fine tuning at this point, from what I hear, and that is a decent method. One thing I was just gonna tell you something like that. Whatever time frame you're marking up the chart on, or you're marking up, you're monitoring, like say the 4 hour, you want to check it every 4 hours. If you're entering on a 1 hour trade, then there's no need to just sit there every watching it tick, because that plays with your psychology, watching the bars go up and down. Come back in an hour, come back in every 4 hours, come back, like you said, in 30 minutes, and just see the process of what they're doing. If they didn't printed another nice size candle, if they didn't printed a hammer candle for you, and then that puts you more at ease as you see a trade play out in your direction. There are certain points, like you were saying, the trend lines, they will push a little bit past them. That's fine. What that does is give you an indication of decision time. how far do I want to let this trade go off based on my risk management, the strategy that I have in place, uh, profit potential, things even like how much profit you done made that week and how much you're willing to risk. So there may be times where I'm in a trade and I'm like, man, I'm up maybe 30 pips or 50 pips, and I see price push down, maybe say 10 pips past what I wanted to do. Okay, I know I have a little bit of potential. I could. It's all about management. That's where you're getting into now, trade management. That's the biggest thing there is about trading. Is it gets easier to actually make a decision and execute the trade, but then we go from, once we execute, the job's done. Now we're just put on what we call our trade manager's hat. We take off the trader hat, and now we're just a manager. We're just managing the trade. If the trade doesn't give us a reason to get out, so if you're in this long right now, you still technically don't have a reason to get out, even though it gave you wicks. It hasn't broke that structure yet. It started to wick, so you just sit there and you just wait. You want to maximize your profit. So TPs are a good thing. You can build up your account like that, grabbing a few TPs, but I always see what runs better is to manage the trade accordingly. So if I get a nice push up, I'm not just shooting to go ahead and just hurry up and take profit. I want to give my trades time to work. So even if I got a nice pullback to what you're saying, I entered in. I mean, preferably I would have entered in down here somewhere. So even if price came back to this level to here, hey, my trade is in break even already. So it's a free trade, no stress trade. If it breaks even, fine. We're on to the next trade. If it comes down here and tests these levels and then take off, hey, instead of getting that little 30 pips, I didn't made myself, a nice trade here. So
I did that last night in GN, where I started to, after like my first 20 pip profit in GN on the hour chart, I started to close out, because I was just like, if I'm comfortable, I was leaning towards just being comfortable with that. But so I was like, I'm in demo, so let me just, and I had it set for actually like 107 pip profit. And I didn't put my take profit there. I put my take profit at like 68 pips. And behold, my analyst was correct. It went actually like 98 pips, pips profit. And it still hit my take profit. And then that goes in showing what you were saying, like give your trades time to work.
Yes, sir. Trust your analysis. I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, my man, I'm excited for all you guys as we put the pieces together. We'll all get to where we want to be in our training and reach new plateaus and work on breaking down those mountains and steady climb. So I'm excited for everybody. I see everybody showing up. You guys have my dedication to, even on a one-on-one basis, to break down and everything that I do know, I'll pour into you guys, and we'll learn off of each other, because no one knows everything in this market. It's always going to be a learning process, but I'm proud of every one of you guys. Y'all are showing up. Don't feel free. There's no such thing. I'm gonna say this again and again. There's no such thing as a stupid question. So if you guys are here and you have any questions on your trading, because pretty soon we're gonna kick it into another gear. I'm gonna start having you guys jump on here, and we're gonna start taking live trades. We'll start trading and start trying to drive up some profit for everybody. So I'm gonna start having you guys to, you know, pick trades, draw up some trend lines, something simple. If you want to use indicators, show us your strategy or what you're using. The EMAs, the oscillators crossing, whatever you want to do. So we can just all become more proficient as a group, and then that's where it gets fun. We'll get to the point to where we all catching trades. More eyes on the market means more profit potential. So Daniel may see something, Sharon may see something, and we can take those, and I may see a trade. We can take those 3 trades, and bam, we just then tripled our profit right there. And we're all moving efficient. And that's how we start trading like a bank, because we have to remember the banks aren't just one person. There's a department department of traders just in there making calculated decisions. So we're just evening the odds while working as a group. But yo, started a little late. We got us about an hour. I appreciate you guys, as always, jumping in. One last time, any other questions or concerns? One last time, shout out to my boy Vincent. I'm not sure if he's still in here, man. Maybe I could pull some of these. I know a few other traders here, man, different skills, different levels. Very professional. I'm not gonna tell all their business, but some nice traders that maybe we can get them to come in and cameo with me, and we'll dive into some charts and show you guys a couple of things. But that's been a session tonight, all about trend lines. Thank you guys for joining, and peace and prosperity to everybody.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you as well. Y'all have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.